Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. These weekly confessions are going to run about 15 minutes, but mercy, give or take, right? Season 6 is a continuing exploration concerning the not-so-small elephant in the room. What is going on in digital marketing and AI? But not just as a gripe session. We're talking about solutions to the stress and coming up with a working, successful relationship with AI models. Welcome to episode 23 of season 6, The Myth of the LLMs.txt file. That's a mouthful. All right. So what I want to talk about, let's just recap, right? Our industry is currently in an all-out panic about what to do to gain AI visibility. Every day, SEOs are looking for a magic bullet, a shortcut, or a quick and dirty fix to get cited by LLMs. And while the crowd is chasing superficial, I know that sounds judgmental, but they are superficial trends, we need to talk about what actually moves the needle. I feel like the guy in that movie that says, life is only one thing. So AI is only one thing that moves the needle, and that is signal clarity. And I'm going to talk about the parity gap because it's a problem. Many, and I mean like the large majority, likely way up in the 90s percentage-wise, but the majority of websites suffer from a massive parity gap. So what is it? Well, that's the mismatch between what is rendered in the DOM and what is present in the raw HTML source. In other words, it's a mismatch between what you tell a human and what you tell a machine. So before you try to optimize anything, and before your content is semantically processed so that it can understand your incredible experience, if your site doesn't pass this foundational baseline, that content either is or will soon be invisible to primary AI crawlers. And the situation is not going to be solved by any quick bumper stickers saying type of approach. No podcast, not even this one. No one article is going to help you gain the visibility you need to even fully appreciate everything that's going on. Now, that's why Kim, Albee, and I at VizzEx started to wonder, how could we help others build their own sustainable, repeatable practice to master this new reality? And we came up with a 12-month course called the AI Visibility Mastery Program. And we have one starting on June 17th. That's this month, if you're listening now, which I hope you are. So don't worry. I'm going to get into this deep dive on the technical breakdown of why relying on files like the LLMs.txt file. I'm going to explain why I think that's a massive strategic trap. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about building the practice of creating content, whatever your niche is, and tell you a little bit about this visibility mastery program. So signal clarity, that is a practice. That is not a one-time fix. You cannot optimize your site once and walk away. The landscape changes too quickly, which is why Kim and I have committed to helping individuals and agencies truly experience exactly what we're talking about and exactly what we're doing. The mastery program starts on June 17th, and I'll put the link in the description, but it's on VizzEx.ai/AI-visibility-mastery. So what the program is and who it's for. This is a year-long guided program teaching the complete signal clarity methodology, how to analyze, architect, build, and maintain a content ecosystem that AI systems can consistently discover, trust, and cite. This is for business owners, marketing teams, managing multiple sites, agencies representing clients, and organizations where AI visibility is a strategic priority. So what do you stand to gain? Well, guided implementation of the methodology from start to finish. And we're not talking about you having to knit this yourself. There is a plugin involved. And we go through really the training is explaining why the horizontal content analysis, which the plugin does, is so essential, the semantic relationship building and the signal architecture. Now, this is hands-on instruction using VizzEx Pro as a foundational tool for the analysis and implementation throughout the entire year. And we've got a bundle price. You purchase 1 year of VizzEx Pro. You can either get, this is for WordPress specifically, but there's a HubSpot app, which is different pricing. But you get your 1 year of the VizzEx Pro for WordPress, and you add in the mastery program, and that one comes in just under $1,500. And you get access to me during the training calls, as well as Kim, plus our unified AI visibility dashboard, which is in addition to seeing your Search Console and Google Analytics data all in one place. You also have the ability to connect in your server logs. If anybody knows me, you know how much this excites me. And you get to see exactly where your content is in the AI pipeline, specifically Gemini for right now. It's unlike anything you have seen. This isn't some prompt-driven, hey, do I show up for this query kind of bullshit. It's empirical data based on your server logs that shows you which pages are getting monitored by Gemini. And so you can see easily through this if there's a crawl drain going on with your files. And I'm proud to say that this is the highest iteration so far of my indexation research. It's now focused on Gemini and Google. So now VizzEx Pro software, it's a precision engine for logical structure, semantic mapping, and entity connections. And it's not an all-in-one remedy, for technical issues, JavaScript, lazy rendering, or theme-level rendering issues. So if you have in-house resources for those, if you don't have those, you want to go through our Symmetry Gate audit or have professional diagnostics. Now, professional diagnostics just happens to be my wheelhouse. And my goal is for everyone enrolled to succeed. So to put things in perspective, this course at just under $1,500, if you're doing the WordPress version, it's a fraction of what I would normally charge for such a diagnostic. And it's way too much to go into here. So check out the page. It's on the VizzEx site, VizzEx.ai and /AI visibility mastery with hyphens in between. And feel free to reach out to me either email. You can do confessions@AmericanWayMedia or Carolyn@VizzEx.ai, or just find me on LinkedIn. Okay, now for demystifying this special little file that everybody and their brother is telling you have to have. So what is the LLMs text file? And should we use one? So the LLMs, large language models, and then there's a couple of different variations of them. I'm just going to refer it to as a single one. There's a lot of talk right now. And a lot of the clients, they're asking us, why don't you include an LLMs text file in the VizzEx framework? Because many people think because someone else told them that having such a file is a requirement. But see, that's not true. Data, as well as some other things, reveal a completely different story. And it really doesn't matter what Google is telling you. You can make up your own mind on this and decide, do I want to slap a Band-Aid on a broken arm, or do I just want to set the broken arm to begin with? So exactly what is this file? Well, it is a text file that lives at the root of a domain, like robots' text files. And it's intended, the purpose is so that LLMs, the AI models, have a quick summary and a narrative context of the site. Now, the industry has embraced it as a must-have best practice. But at VizzEx, we have analyzed the math. We've established actually an official standard to omit it. And I'll give you 4 technical reasons why. First, Google's official non-adoption. I know what you're going to say, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Google's search relations team, specifically Gary Ellis and John Mueller, has explicitly stated on their podcast, Search Off the Record, that they have no plans to support the LLMs text file for Gemini. Google wants to rely on established, instructionally hardened signals, clear and clean HTML, and verified JSON schema. Did you catch that? No plans for Gemini. Okay, so Gemini isn't the only model out there, right? And I get that. But let's look at studies based on crawl data, because if you think this were a requirement for models, even if Gemini is not one of them, the other models would be instructed to look for that file first. So let's see what the studies say. And I quote, ineffective bot traffic. This is from Adobe and Otterly AI data. So they've audited server logs. So this is why it's empirical, because you can tell by the behavior. It shows less than 0.1% of AI crawlers ever request such a file. And AI agents like GPT bot and Google Other, they prioritize the live DOM. That's what is ultimately rendered. And optimizing a file that bots do not read, I don't know about you, but to me that's a waste of resources, both yours and any of the models. And then we come to what I think is a real problem. And this is called like a two-source of truth problem. And meaning that this LLMs file alongside your live HTML, it can create some potential harm in your positioning in the models. So if your text summary in your LLMs file varies ever so slightly from your live content, the thing is, it might not be significant, but it is significant to math. And so when the AI notices that even slight drift, that triggers a contradiction, a failure. And it starts to not really trust what it's seeing. So that is that slight little bit of change, that difference is what confuses the AI. All right, so you don't want a confused AI. Confused AI goes out into all these little fan-out queries, and that's not, that's more like the kiss of death as far as I'm concerned. Then we also have an environmental issue. These secondary requests add unnecessary computational payloads. So if you think about, like, we have, green energy, well, green AI is a principle that basically minimalist extraction is the gold standard. Now, what that means is the AI has the easiest time possible because all of their meat has been cut and all of it has been chewed, so all they have to do is open their mouth. So a quiet site, as I just described, is easier to ingest than one with redundant proxy summaries. So what do I mean making a site quiet? Well, this is where we talk about parity metrics. The Symmetry Gate, this is a render audit. It's a one-to-one structural parity between the rendered DOM and the raw HTML source. And you can check your content if you're not sure. We have a tool called the VizzEx Symmetry Gate Checker, and you can find that at symmetrygate.ai. You just pop in your URL, and you can see for the various models where you stand. So I guess that was the one. And then, at least in Google, there's another one to be aware of. It's kind of like when you see the experience of when your page is showing indexed in Search Console, but in your tracker, it goes in and out. And you're like, what the hey? That digital seesaw? Well, it's because of the next level parity test. So it's there's a flash extraction where Googlebot and Google Other basically fetch the HTML only, and they only trust the HTML. They're not looking to compare it against anything else. And this is when your page shows up as indexed and being served based on its HTML alone. But it's a bit like the honor system, because that same content will get kicked out when those same crawlers do that more expensive render. When that's performed and they find a difference between the raw HTML and the rendered DOM, then you get kicked out. So you see, you have these tests going on all the time. So with all that commitment that you can see on these core assets of content, it makes sense to focus on your core asset, which is your HTML and your rendered DOM, and not these sort of distraction files off at the side. But Carolyn, Google says, all right, well, first we have the explicit rejection by the Google search team. The core search relations team that I mentioned before, Mueller and Elis, they remain fiercely opposed to recognizing or supporting these text files for a Google search or AI overview. And John Mueller is publicly likening them to legacy keywords via the meta description. It's a field entirely controlled by the site owner that's too easily manipulated to be used for factual grounding or verification. And Mueller went as far as calling the practice of building separate markdown versions of the site content for crawlers a, quote, stupid idea. His words, not mine, unquote. Asserting that AI systems must learn to parse actual human-rendered content. So the zero support mandate, Elis confirmed that Google Search has zero plans to support the LLMs text file, stating that standard, high-quality semantic HTML and JSON LD, that's the schema, are the only signals Gemini uses to establish citation eligibility. So why the split? Well, enter the Chrome team, the browser Chrome team. So while Search team has rejected the file, the Chrome and the Lighthouse engineering team has moved in the opposite direction, thus creating this beautiful paradox everybody is confused by. So in May, Google's official Lighthouse tool introduced an experimental agentic browsing audit that actively flags sites missing an LLMs.txt file. So let's put a fine point on this disconnect. Chrome views the file in a way finding tool for autonomous browser agents, while Search views these files as an unverified meta noise. This means Google is auditing for a file in Lighthouse that its own search crawlers actively ignore for indexing. So do you really want another file that can mess you up? So if you need any more reasons to drop the file idea and move into what it takes to quiet down your site, so if your content doesn't need such a file, but why not have your content be the least expensive? Why is it, this or that? I don't know if that made sense. But anyway, we are even fully aware of how much energy AI is taking right now. So you add one little file on billions of sites, I can imagine that would increase the strain on local energy systems. Yeah, the ones that run our homes and offices, electrical energy. So let's just say it. We're not optimizing anymore. We're training systems to recognize our institutional authority. If we give them messy signals, or you try and hide behind a proxy file like the LLMs text file, your time as a citation source will be fragile and tenuous. And worst case, you could be left out of the citation index completely. So go to symmetrygate.ai and run an audit on the URLs of your site. And you can identify if you have any parity gap. I guarantee you will. Register to join us on June 17th for the year-long AI Visibility Mastery course. And I'll put the link in the description, but it's on the VizzEx website. And the slug is AI Visibility Mastery with hyphens in between. So secure your license of VizzEx Pro and run your analysis side by side with us. I am Carolyn Holzman, and that's it for me this week. See you next time. Confessions is sponsored exclusively by VizzEx. VizzEx will help you create content with the lowest computational cost to LLMs, and it also is for WordPress and HubSpot. Soon we'll have more CMS platforms. So let's not settle for short-term random citations anymore. If you want to be considered for citations, let's be deliberate about it.